You are listening to the Short Convos podcast.
We flying?
So we are live.
We're in the clouds.
Right, we're in the clouds, sir.
You've been doing the intro. Do you want to do the intro?
I'm going to stay on it. Welcome, guys, to the Short Convos podcast. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I am as Miralai, presenting with my dear friend and colleague, Mr.
JC, Warrior of Light, Cashman. And we're having our weekly Short Convo catch-up, aren't we?
We are indeed. Everyone keeps telling me it's not that short. Apparently a half hour to hour conversation is not a short convo.
It's a short convo as far as I'm concerned. Who says how long a short convo should be?
Well, my thing is that if you look at the different topics, each one is a short convo. We just have loads of short convos put together.
Yeah.
They're chatting rubbish. I just let you know that there's people out there saying ridiculous things to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to write this down for next week.
The definition of a short conversation.
I'm gonna get definition of short first.
Oh,
Then convo.
It's all subjective, isn't it? It's all relative. Who knows? Like if you've had an 8-hour conversation, I'd say a 30-minute convo is pretty short.
Yeah. Did I write this down right? Dichotomy or something?
The dichotomy of life. We were talking
Is that a
about
word?
Did we check if that was a word? I'm going to check right now since we are live. This is.
Come on, that was your homework, man.
Was that my homework? I had homework.
I'm sure it was.
I don't remember us setting that as homework. Otherwise, I would have had it. Oh man, that's not working. Homework for next week. I will figure out exactly what that means and get that up for you. I didn't realize we'd made that official.
Yeah, it was official.
Sorry,
you better check that.
Apologies. My bad.
How's your week been then, Az?
The week has been lovely. I've been in a good mood. The weather's been great, and that's a big thing. I don't know how susceptible you are to weather and mood, but I've always considered myself solar powered, and the sun helps me. I generally feel in a better mood and more productive in the summer months and spring than I do in the winter. I kind of almost go into hibernation mode in the winter. I power through because things need to be done, but there's definitely a significant difference in my energy levels. So this week I've been great. Been outside in the sun, been soaking it up, no complaints.
I love the sun. If I had a choice, cold, wet, or sun all day long. But I wouldn't go as far to say I'm solar powered. I feel functionable in whatever climate, and sometimes I actually quite like the challenge of a wet and miserable day. I think sometimes it brings the best out in you, kind of, or with me anyway. But I think the environment is very much affected by what you said, being solar powered. I think just interaction with people, just the general energy of everyone is far better when it's sunny. Far better.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there because like I said, I've been outside a lot more this week because of the weather. I've been around nature a lot more this week, which always helps. And then interacting with people, and I think all of that stuff's just healthy human stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So tick box, good week for you.
Tick box, good week for me. Next week I'll be like borderline suicide, right? That's how it works.
I was going to say, I was thinking before we chatted, I was thinking, we should have documented this for the graph where it.
Well,
where
we can go back through the episodes. Let's get to like episode 20 and see what we've been saying each week of the ups and downs. That's the beauty of this. We got a record of it. Yourself?
A good week. I'm feeling really calm in a good way. I wouldn't say I'm up on cloud nine or on elations, but I've had a really good week. It's been good being back at our dojo. I know it's a little bit different for you with your setup and everything, but it feels, I don't like using the word normal, but there's a form of usual business again. We've done a couple
of weeks. What is the word for what you're using? Comfort? Home creature comforts? There's a word that's springing to mind that you're trying to say, because it's not normal, but it's the... No. I don't know. It'll come. Yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
And even with the restrictions that we're having to put in place to social distancing, the one way in, one way out, all of that kind of thing, in just a week, everyone's settled into it. Everyone's like, the instructors, the students, the parents, everyone's like, yeah, So it feels like one can start to put some goals ahead. One can start to, I feel like one's heading in a nice direction. And to top it all off, the best thing is the camper's properly up and running now as well.
I saw a video of the engine ticking over. That was quite a sight to see. You took it on the road yet?
Yeah, so I rebuilt it, reassembled it. I didn't rebuild the entire engine because I don't have the tools for that. So I got a block and I reassembled it, put it back in, and you think, I just turn the key and just start. No such luck. So we had a fuel line issue. We had a electrical issue, no spark, which turned out to be nothing. I had a friend who's a mechanic came around, and he didn't actually do anything but test stuff, and then tested it again, and it worked. It was like, it didn't replace anything at all. It's just like, that's how it goes sometimes. So then she turned over, learned how to time her and everything. But then there was this really annoying, not alarming, but really annoying squeaking noise. So with mechanical stuff, I don't know if you'd have the ear for it. Some stuff sounds wrong. It's like, shit, turn it off. You don't want it doing that, making that noise. And other stuff, it's like, it shouldn't be doing that, but it's not a kind of problem. So there's this squeak going on, and I was pretty certain it was the fan belt. So I managed to round off the nut, taking that off the bolt, so I had to fix all of that. And then I got to a point where I kept adjusting it, and it would go, come back, go and come back. And then I thought, well, the neighbour said, just leave the fan belt off and run it, and it was still squeaking. It still wasn't even the fan belt.
Right.
So that's when the neighbours, I got 3 neighbours, they're all coming around, really nice neighbours, saying hello, giving advice, and they're like, it might be the thrush bearings, so where the engine meets the clutch, because it's all a new clutch and everything else, and that's like an engine out again job, fix it. And I wasn't alarmed by that, but my neighbour's like, it's such a shame, you've just got it, it's so pretty, it's so clean, it's so everything else. And then yesterday, talking to someone else, thought it might be the clutch cable. So got under the van today, and after learning how to adjust that, it's the clutch cable. So she's 500-mile running now. So
lovely. Does it feel different, could you say?
Yeah, massively. It sounds
significantly.
Significantly, like massively.
Interesting.
Well, the exhaust is actually attached now, so that helps.
That helps.
All 4 cylinders are firing, so that kind of helps.
That's a big plus.
It feels nearly 50 years new, if that makes sense. So she pulls away nice. Like, I replaced all the back brakes, so she actually stops. That's quite an important thing. Handbrake actually works. I've had a first gear handbrake for however long, so handbrake works, and little things like that. It's really pleasing. The whole thing, I'm really liking metaphors and analogies at the moment. And the whole thing for me is just a great metaphor, I think, of life itself. And what, in the experience of doing something like that, like, people fix cars every day, don't they? People, well, not necessarily a car like that, like a 50-year-old vehicle. The mechanics side of it is very different to today's vehicles. And like the friend that's a mechanic, when he came over, he's like, this is great. We don't get to do stuff like this anymore with a simple engine. So it's not something new. I've spoken to those people that have taken, but for me it was. And I think the metaphor for it is really don't be scared to do things in life that you want to do, where no matter how big it is. Like, this time last year, the thought of taking the engine out and replacing all the brakes, which is quite important, and disassembling it, basically doing it on my own, just with a bit of help from other people, but me on the tools. It was like, man, that would seem like a bit of you'd sort of stop before you got to it. But then I thought there was a point where I'm not going to be able to do this again. I'm not going to have this kind of time on my hand where it can sit there and it can be worked on. And it was like, bit the bullet, got the new lump, pulled it all apart, had everything there, and it's like, well, you've got to get it done now. And
it's out now.
I just learned so much. So when I look at the van now, I don't look at it going, what if that, it's almost like, I don't know how to explain. It's like the Matrix. You look at it and you can see how it operates, how it works. There's not a thing I can't fix on it now. And that's a really nice feeling to have. You own a vehicle, something that I drive and have pleasure with, take the girls camping, do all the things, and I can fix it. I know, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of topped my week off so far. It's a really good week.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I make a big point, and I have done for years now, of changing my own brakes. I've done it on my last couple of cars where I don't know what it was. I realized that it was one of those things that we were just overpaying for. With all respect to mechanics, they deserve to get paid. They deserve to get things for their labor. But when you look at it, when I watched a video on it, I was like, this is just far too simple for me to give to someone else to do. I can do this. And now I do it all the time. And when people see me doing it, they're like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't mess with that. You know, you don't know what you're doing. What if it doesn't work? And I'm like, trust me, it's not actually anywhere near as daunting as what you have it in your mind to be. And I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? Is when you think about changing the engine on a car, it seems like this just gargantuan task way beyond your ken. But really, if you break it down into steps and little pieces, it's just one bolt, one screw after another, and you get there.
I think the daunting is a big thing of it. I think that's a really good word. You look at it and it's daunting. So like I reassembled the rear brake and did the bearings as well. And it's like I got down to the bearings and it's like, how do you get these out? Like you are going to need a machine press or something. And then that means taking that off to get it to a machine and that. So I found through this whole process, I've learned there's always a way around it. So got a hammer and a flat-headed chisel and chiseled them out and put them back in. Yeah, we're a bit of force and it's absolutely fine. And, you know, YouTube is a godsend, but I've also got a traditional Haynes manual, so I'm jumping between pages to that. And then there's some things a little bit more intricate, like the timing, for instance. It's like I just had no idea how you timed an engine. I understand the idea of it on a 4-cylinder, it's got all fire and it's all got a B time, but I had no understanding. And then, yeah, watch a little YouTube video and it's like, oh, okay, I marked that there, turn it. And it's like, it's really satisfying once you do something like that as well.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, I've got that done. So yeah, that was pleasing.
I think people do stuff like this less and less. And I guess that you hit the nail on the head about time and having the time to do it, because, you know, you take your car into the garage and get it fixed. You've freed up your time to go do something else. You're just going to pay the price for it. But I think with certain stuff, you should make the time, because you get so, like you said, you got so much pleasure from the process and from the learning experience. And now you can take so much pride in driving it around, because it really is now your car. If it wasn't before. So I think there's a lesson to be learned there.
And it's, what was I going to say? I can't even remember now. There's something you just said, and I thought I'd say something. It'll come back in a minute. But you went camping, didn't you, yourself? Not in a camper.
I did go, very, very basic tent and wood camping. My dad's we're very fortunate. He's got access to quite a bit of land, like about, I think it's 14 acres worth of just forest. Nice. So I just walked out into the middle of it and found a nice spot, started a big fire and set up a tent, and just switched off for 24 hours and just got back to some basics. It was good. I don't know what you're similar into this idea, so you understand that it grounds you in some way that's very hard to explain. But there's something about cooking on flames and sleeping a bit rough and being away from technology. I mean, away from electricity in its entirety, the waves and the frequencies. It's just different.
I've been on that journey for quite some time now. I think even before we had CC, so probably like 17 years, something 20 years now. I found that I didn't go ever camping as a kid. Our holidays were either staying somewhere in Cornwall, as in a house, or flying somewhere. I never did camping there once as a kid. I used to play outdoors. I used to go out on my bikes. I wasn't scared of mud and worms, but it wasn't our go-to thing, because I know some families have always camped, haven't they? Yeah. And it was Lauren's. Lauren inherited a little bit of money from one of her family's side, and we went and bought a load of camping gear, and we went camping. And I just fell in love with it then, and I got into the bushcraft, and then obviously the camper kind of ties in with all of that as well. And I think we've got undeniable programming in us. Like if you look at the time scale that we've had electricity, just say the comfort of electricity, and the time scale as human beings that we haven't, it's like minute, isn't it? So the amount of time that we have survived without it far exceeds with it. And I think there's some kind of in-programming thing in us that, well, for me anyway, yeah, when I go kayak, I just feel at one, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went with my sisters. So we went with all my sisters and their partners, and bless them, they're very much city folk. So they like their creature comforts. They're not used to camping. They don't really know about starting a fire and pitching a tent or anything like this. But it takes a little while for them. Like for me, the second I'm there, I switch flips and I'm in a different frame of mind. For them, it took a few hours to kind of disconnect and kind of get through where do I go toilet? What do I do with this? How do I handle that? But then by the end of the evening, by the time we were like all just sat around the fire, there was just this different energy in the space. It was really good, really needed. And it's just, I only get mad at myself that I don't do it more often, because every time I go, I'm like, I should do this more often. But yeah, it's finding the time, finding the space. But
I saw a good documentary on camping a little while back, actually.
Yeah.
And I can't quote the dates exactly, but camping doesn't go back that far. We're talking to like even the 40s or 50s, something like that. So, man has lived in caves forever, but this whole tent camping thing doesn't go back that far as a recreational thing, and it was actually only a very wealthy thing to do. The city folk, your guys who worked in the city or lived in the city, would go for a camping weekend and would have a tent and would have these kind of things. Your workers couldn't afford to go camping. They couldn't afford a day off work. They worked 6 days a week and 1 day of rest to then be able to work the next 6 days a week. And I found that really interesting to start with. And then I can't remember how it happened, but it was something to do with the cost of, like, everyone it was something to do with the cost of it. People started to do it more, it became more accessible. Then all the cheap airlines started coming out, so people could easily fly to France, Spain, all of these hot countries, climates and that, and it killed camping. And then I think in the early thousands or the late 90s, it might even be the early thousands, it had a I can't say the word, renaissance, is that the word, where it comes around again? And it had a rebirth, and people now, it's a common thing because it's also cost effective. It's not a budget holiday, but it's a way that you can go away at a reasonable cost, and it's come back again. It was just really interesting documentary on the story of camping.
You don't think of it like that, do you? Because now you do think of it as not a poor man's holiday, but like you said, it is inexpensive. You can pick up a tent now, 50, 60 quid. And that's like a hotel basically now for a few days. It doesn't take a lot to get the basic camping gear. So you don't think of it as a rich man, but I guess, especially back then, I think materials must have been a big thing, because
massively.
Plastics and stuff like that. And now, stuff like carbon fiber or lightweight metals for frames and everything, all of that stuff must have been crazy expensive back when it was first cropping up.
Well, my grandparents, they used to go to Cornwall when people used to think it was another country. So they used to be like, we're going to Cornwall. And someone would say to them, where's that? Is that another country? Because people never travelled that kind of far a distance. And when they first went, they used to go with a motorbike and sidecar. So it'd be my nan, my granddad on the motorbike, and my dad and the dog and the tent in the sidecar.
Yeah, the sidecar. Yeah,
And it used to be a 2-day journey, a 2-day drive. They had to stop at a farmer's field to pitch up tent, or on halfway down. And yeah, just that's when time zones were different in this country. You had a different time zone in Cornwall
yeah.
to here. It wasn't until the railway brought it all in together.
It's crazy to think that's not even that long ago. I mean, like you said, that's a grandparent's lifetime ago. It's not
my dad.
Not anything.
One generation, my dad. So yeah, mad. I remember what it was I was going to say actually about I had that blank. You were saying about the time, not having the time to do things like rebuild an engine, etc. What came to mind is it's the value of what you give something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like for instance, I value my time in a sense of if there's a job that can be done by someone else or it can be done better. Just take admin, for instance. I give it to someone else because it's a job that doesn't require my skill set. It requires someone else's skill set, or it's a job that can just be done by anyone. So I don't put that. Seems to me now a waste of time because I have a limited time. We all do, but for instance, paying someone to work to do the camper, I'd have to work to get the money to pay someone to do the camper, and you're going to be paying tenfold probably to have the work done that you would do, and that's how I value it.
Yes.
As well as the pride and everything else.
Right way to value it, I feel, yeah. I think that's right. I think it's a hard thing for people to come to terms with that delegation. I think is one of the most difficult but useful things people can learn and become good at. The ability to give things up that they serve you, but they won't serve you if they are added on and added on and added on. At some point, you need to give things away to create space for bigger things, to let you have room for the bigger project and to do the bigger stuff in mind.
Yeah, for sure. I thought I was going to ask you this week. I've got a few rituals that I do. I just thought of it the other day while I was doing it. And one of my rituals, my weekly rituals, is I always have an evening green tea. So I've got a couple that I particularly like a jasmine tea in you steep it. I always steep it a certain way, temperature, everything else. And then I've got a matcha tea, slightly different tea bowl. So I'm not talking your English cup of tea, mate. I'm talking, it's a green tea. I always, every evening, have it. And I think what made me think I didn't have it the other evening. It trigged in my head, I didn't do it that evening. Sometimes, at the weekend it's a whiskey rather than green tea, but during the week it's a green tea. And I find it you're saying about camping, I find something like that very grounding. It's just one little thing that you do a day. It takes 5 minutes out of the day to steep it. I sit and watch the telly, read outside, wherever it is I'm having it. I just find it another thing that just grounds you. It just brings you back to where you are. You can think about the day, you can plan the day, you can whatever it is in the moment. Do you have any rituals that you do?
They change. I've not had one that I can say has been there for like years and years. A daily occurrence. I go through periods of them. So like at the moment, the rituals are every day I have to go for a walk, even if it's just 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I have to just get Anne's allergic to everything that moves. I'd have to get a cockroach. I think that's the only thing we've worked out that she's not allergic to. Cockroach on a leash.
But you go for a walk without dog?
I go for a walk. And it might just be once round the block. It might just be down the road and back, but I have to. Recently, that's been something really powerful for me. Another one at the moment is I'm doing something called daily pages, which just means I'm sitting down either at the start or the end of the day, and I'm just writing just to get stuff out of my head. Just basically a brain dump. And sometimes it's 1 page, sometimes it's 3. I just write until I've run out of stuff to really say. It doesn't take long, but that's really helped me at the minute to get out of my head and get rid of that kind of not negative head speech, but just that constant,
Chat.
like the chatter, the washing machine of just stuff coming round and going round. It puts it out, and then I can kind of get a bit of perspective on things. That's been a recent one. But yeah, I've not had anything as consistent. I know your T one is, I don't know how many years you could say you've been doing it.
Yeah, a long
for,
time now.
But yeah, I've not had anything that consistent with them.
I've been to a couple of really nice restaurants, and one where they, you know, the on the menu they have green tea, and I'm so particular now with the way that I do it. It's like, oh yeah, you did that all right. And this is a really nice restaurant, and it's like, you know, I think to anyone else it would be like, wow, green tea, and they did it, and it was a class, and it was it, and it's like, okay, I would do it this way. You oversteeped it. Yeah.
This is how I feel about steaks. Like I pride myself on cooking a mean steak. And then I'll go to a nice steakhouse and I'm still like, yeah, it was good. It was nice, but I could do it better.
I'm glad you mentioned the writing the diary, because as I feel life is now coming a little bit more back on track after, you know, this derailment, I haven't actually been on my diary. Well, it's not a diary, it's just a moleskin book that I just write in. Things. Journal. I haven't been on a journal. Yes, that's the word, journal. So I'm going to pick, once we finish this call, I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to evenings start to journal again. I think that's an important thing.
I didn't actually know that you did it.
Yeah.
Journaling in general. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I've always found it something I come back to and go off of from time to time. But I just feel when I need it. There's certain times and areas of life where I'm like, I need a place to put all of this, and then other times you've got your foot on the gas and you're good to go, and it's not a necessary tool, but yeah, it's been a powerful ally in a lot of situations for me.
We've probably spoken about it before, but then, like we said, rituals, but then there's things like weekly or even daily that you have to do because things depend on it. It's like, for instance, maintenance on a car. You have to, you know, fill the water, do it, and everything. I have a weekly thing with that. My other thing is the bonsais, like behind me. Like, I had a really good day at the weekend where I just sat down with them and I tidied them all. I find sometimes it can be a little bit of a crutch because I've been watering for the last month, and like a couple of them needed attention from like a pest point of view. They had like a fungi on the leaf and that. And every time you go to water them, like I'm doing this late at night, it's not the time to work on them. And it's like, it becomes a little bit of a, I want to sort that, and that goes on for a few weeks. But then when you get it done, it's like, it's nice again. So I'll put the camper and like the bonsais into bracket like that. It's not a daily thing, but it's another sort of ritual. What about you? Do you see something as more of a, like you said, you don't always write, but occasionally you do?
I've got a bunch of those things where they come and go. Like music is a big one for me. I'm always listening to music, but I play music as well. So I have, in particular, guitar. And it used to be when I was at school, because I actually ended up studying it, it was every day, we're talking 3 to 5 hours a day playing. And now it's like, maybe half an hour a week, maybe once a week I'll sit down and play. But again, I don't like plan it or put it in the diary or, you know, get it ready. The day comes and I'm like, I want to play guitar. And I find some time, I sit down, I play, and then it kind of satisfies whatever that need is within me. And then I've got a few bonsais, a few house plants. And like you said, I get what you mean about the kind of crutch of, you see one either needs attending to or repotting and something, and it's like, that it niggles at you because you know you've got to find some space and time to make that happen. But yeah, the music's a big one for me. I know you're a big music fan in terms of listening to music. That's always been around for me.
Likewise. CC is extreme on that, to almost a point of, that's my eldest daughter, almost to a point of obsession. Like, as we get in the car, can you turn it on? Turn the radio on. It's like, you know, she can't sing. It's just typical teenage. She can't function without music or something playing. That's a very interesting thing now. Looking at our kids and my childhood in comparison. Like, I used to watch a lot of cartoons, I used to play games, I used to enjoy those sort of things, but the device world is, that's a whole nother convo at another time.
Yeah, it really is. That's the whole mobile thing, isn't it? Because the difference with us
Yeah.
is you wanted to play a game, you had to sit down and be plugged in. Whereas now it's in your pocket, it goes wherever you go. And same for music. You know, you have to go get your CD player. Now it's just in your hands.
I think another metaphor, another analogy, you said about changing brakes. You know,
Yeah.
you've made yourself do that. I thought of this as an analogy this week, where it's really important to focus on braking, as in stopping every now and then. I think we run so fast all of the time, and we don't look at, like, I actually thought of it while I was changing the brakes on the camper. I thought, you know what, this has been well overdue. Should have spent a bit more time making sure, and it's like real nice fancy brakes and everything else with the old school drums and everything on it now. And it's like the camp who you said, you know, the green teas, your music, your writing, the trees. It's that opportunity just to stop for a moment, isn't it? To put the brakes on life. I think that's such an important thing.
It's like a physical meditation. You know, your wife's got into yoga very much recently, hasn't she?
Yes.
And I think that's another example of it, where you're not doing nothing. It's not about sitting still in a quiet room and doing nothing. I think that can be important too, but it's about doing something that requires attention, but it's like a soft attention. It's not intense, like I need to get this spreadsheet done, I need to get this plan written out. It's got a time frame, but the time frame's a bit different, isn't it? Like, your camper was going to be done when it was going to be done. It wasn't due date Friday. You'd like to have it done by Friday, but if it wasn't ready by Friday, it wasn't ready. I think activities like that are really important to be mixed in amongst the stuff that, you know, has to be done and has to get space. But yeah, putting the brakes on is a huge
Or is
thing.
everything actually like that?
Is everything actually like that? Are these deadlines all made up?
Should
Are they all in our head?
Should you put those things, that energy into everything, and then everything would be more enjoyable? Of course, there's deadlines, you know, there's date and time, isn't it? Like, if you're going to get married, you've got to sort it out for the wedding. Otherwise, all the expense that you put out, you'll lose. So yeah, of course, the deadline. I think that is a really good tool to give yourself deadlines. And I found it funny the other day, Poppy was giving herself a deadline to get something done. She was just playing a simple little game, and she's like, I've got to get this done in a minute. If I don't, I'm gonna fall in the lava. And I think that's a really good practice to make yourself have to do something. But on the flip side, should it be like that kind of thing?
I think it's a little, I don't know if idealistic is the word. Yeah, it's going to be, I know it's bad, we got to say it, but I think it is. For me, it's like, you know, if you played a game and I gave you the cheat codes and now you're invincible, and you have nothing to worry about, the game becomes boring. Yeah. Because there's no challenge anymore. It's just, you know, you're going to enjoy it for a moment and then it's going to get very boring. So I do think you need the challenge and you need the pressure. Because, and we've spoke about this loads, that you enjoy being in the fire, being in the pressure. So I do think you need both. But yeah, I think the balance is skewed a lot these days, where we're so on it and there's so much pressure, and then we forget to do the other side of life, which is just be in the moment and just enjoy something simpler. Yeah. The simple side of things.
Or not the need to answer all the emails, not the need to do everything.
Otherwise the compulsion. Let's get away from that. I've had moments where I've just wanted to throw my phone because I feel like I'm compelled to pick it up and to check it or to go through an email or reply to something. And I feel like I'm a slave to it at times. And I just want to throw it and just like get rid of it and get an old Nokia and go back to a dumb phone. And then, you know, you calm down, you take a break and you realize you're okay. But
breathe.
But yeah, balance. Zeros and ones, baby.
Zeros and ones. Well, that's been a short convo, hasn't it? Like, how could you make that convo any shorter?
I mean, you could, but at what point is it then not a conversation anymore? And it's just,
Yeah, I'm going to research this for next week, Az.
yeah, people, fast food. Now they want fast combos. Like,
Yeah,
what do you want, people?
Yeah.
Pull yourselves together. Go camping.
Yeah, exactly. Or rebuild an engine.
First, dude, I will see you next time.
Yeah.
Guys, please like, share, please leave 5-star reviews, pass on to your friends, and we will see you next week.